All right, and we're live.
From Alaska, Rim After Dark,
Oh man.
John and Danny.
Past my bedtime, guys.
All right, that's about as long as I can leave that up. All right, guys. Here we are. It's finally time. Let's do it. Welcome to Best in Faction.
The next generation.
A podcast not starring John and Danny.
I'm Tyler,
I'm Nick.
And I'm Lucas.
and we are bringing you our very own TNG After Dark. It is currently 9 p.m. where we are on the West Coast, and it is other times in other places. We were not able to bring you an episode this past week as our boys were at an RTT, and this following week, as we're going to be talking about a lot later on, Naj and I are going to GW Open in Seattle. So, lots of big stuff coming up, but it does mean we're going to bring you a little bit of an awkward bonus episode this lovely Wednesday evening. Thank you so much for joining us live if you're here, and if you're listening, be sure to check us out on Patreon, on YouTube. We've been all the places. We got lots of cool stuff going on. Lucas, how you doing today, man?
Oh, dude, I'm doing great. I'm feeling great about Warhammer. I've done some hobbying in the last week for the first time since my new job started, really. And that's felt really good. So I'm doing great.
Very nice. How about you, Nick? How you doing?
Good. Kind of like Lucas too. I've been changing stuff around at work. Got a new position, which has been very busy. But I'm very excited to play Warhammer for 3 days this weekend.
Indeed. Should be a good time. Before we jump into Warhammer for this coming weekend, do you guys want to touch on Warhammer this past weekend?
Sure. I mean, we went to an RTT. Nick and I both played against Sisters for the first time since the Armor of Contempt change. And Nick, you also played against Emperor's Children,
I did.
who delivered you an unexpected loss, which I'm sure we'll talk more about.
It was actually we didn't stay for the whole RTT. I think my buddy Max and I we matched into each other round 3, and Lucas was kind of excited to go home early, so we ended up leaving the last round. I think your opponent also was kind of chill, just not playing the last round. It was like a for fun charity event. It was pretty fun, but driving to and back from Hoquiam in one day, we were like, getting home at 7 sounds a lot better than getting home at 10.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so you got delivered an unexpected loss by Emperor's Children, and I got delivered a loss by Tyranids.
Yeah, not entirely unexpected.
What did you guys think about the new Sisters, though? I think that's probably the thing that I wanted to pull out of this.
There's definitely a lot of power there, and it's not in the no rerolls Valorous Heart, because no rerolls on T3 bodies is okay, everything is still wounding them on 3s and 2s. It's the Bloody Rose being so hard to remove and still punching you right in the face hella hard. Those ladies slap.
Sisters don't just go away. I was playing the Harlequins list that I'm going to be bringing to the major this weekend, and with Shuriken cannons being AP1, and you usually just kind of would be all right, dude, take a bunch of 4-up saves. Now you're saying take a bunch of 3-up saves, and well, that's a big difference. So yeah, they don't just disappear. You'll kill 2, maybe 3 if you're lucky, but then there's a squad of 3 sisters just running around, and if they're like what Lucas said, Bloody Rose, they're gonna punch you real hard. So yeah,
Very cool. Art of War currently ranks Sisters as the number 3 army in the game after Nids and Craftworld, and above Harlequins and Tau. What do you guys think of that assessment?
I don't know enough about the army or where the tier sits to really comment. I think they safely belong in the A tier. They're incredibly solid. Like a lot of Armor Contempt factions, they probably belong in A tier. I just don't know. The third best in the game, I wouldn't really be able to comment.
I think they went from low A tier, barely making it an A tier, to high A tier now. I mean, especially with Bloody Rose, they're a melee faction that they can give the Repentia advance in charge, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've advance in charge.
If they don't start in the Rhino, yeah.
Yeah, they can give them advance, which is a lot easier to do now with the Ignore LOS nerf. So they can give them advance in charge. They can give them obsec. They can fight on death, which is something pretty crazy outside of characters. So if your opponent's only answer to killing them is killing them in melee, they trade after killing something. And also the book has a melee engagement range fight on last on a character or not fast, fight last, on a character who I think can advance in charge as well, and she also can like do a once per game turn off Invul's aura, and Invul's are very common right now, especially like one of Harlequin's and Eldar's only defense against high AP weaponry. So I think they have all the tools to be a good melee army, and they're also backed up by some very solid shooting. So I think they're quite strong. And the extra miracle dice every round, like you don't think it's that strong, and then you look over turn 3 and your opponent has like a pile of 8 miracle dice. You're like, holy cow! And they're not even like the opponent I played wasn't even like a miracle dice spamming guy. He didn't have like any way to manipulate them, and he still just had buckets of them.
So. Awesome, yeah. I personally think that we're about at the point where we can break up A tier, in my mind, because saying that Sisters, Harlequins, and Tau are in the same tier as a lot of the like decent Marine chapters seems kind of disingenuous to me. It feels like that lower half of what we're currently calling A tier should be B tier, and what we're currently calling B tier should be C tier, which is not to say that it's bad, just that like there's some more delineation that I think we could find room for. But
yeah, when 20 books are in A tier, not 20, but like 10 are in A tier. Maybe A tier's a little bloated.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, but we're not here to talk about Art of War stuff. We're here to talk about Grim After Dark stuff, which means it's time for meme review, because that's how this show works now. Yeah. What do you got for us here, Lucas? We got a lovely meme. And for the audio-only people, Lucas is going to have to describe this in excruciating detail.
Wonderful, yes. This was something I made at about 1:30 a.m. about 2 nights ago, and got 6 laugh reacts in general chat, so I'm just feeling great about my life at the moment. It's the call to ambulance but not for me meme, and the guy walking up is Eldar and Sisters becoming meta, and the guy shooting is 40 double shooting +1 strength and damage, auto charging, go F yourself on Death Emperor's children. And I found this funny because Nick lost his game against Emperor's children the other day because every time he tried to do something, 20 noise marines shot him, and then he just died brutally.
Yeah, it was a really good learning game. I went first and I'm like, oh, chaos. I'll just rush this guy, right? We also the terrain was preset and it was the scouring and there were 0 safe objectives. So I'm like, well, I can't really like play a long game here. I just kind of have to rush him because he has 20 noise marines in a pod. And I killed a lot of noise marines, and then the 20 came out of the pod and killed 3 boats and 15 troops. And I'm like, holy shit, I just lost the game. And I was still in the game for a while at the end, but the armor contempt was pretty big, actually. I think the game came down to he had 20 Terminators and 2 characters, and I had my 3 characters alive, and they all charged the Terminators. And I'm like, all right, dude, through the various combats, I was like, take, 24 up armors, right? Because all my characters are AP3. And I think he made like 17 or 18 of them, and I'm like, all right, cool. Good game. So basically, the armor came in pretty big there. AP3 and melee, turning it into a 4-up, pretty big, turning it into a coin flip.
Very cool. Good to know. Do you guys think that Emperor's Children are going to make a splash this weekend?
I hope so. That is such a zombie book. I cannot believe it is still alive, and it's not even like the usual chaos thing where they throw together. They can only have one sub-faction now, but they still throw together like 18 different units from 12 different books, and somehow it blasts you. No, it's just like a bunch of noise marines and terminators dropping in and blasting you with ridiculous stratagems. That's it. That's their whole game plan, and it's somehow still good. Not good, but like you have to be aware of what it does, or you'll probably lose.
We had another meme idea, which was that meme where it's like the police breaking down the door, and instead of like a lock, it's just a Cheeto holding the door. And we're like, the Cheetos is noise marines and Emperor's Children, basically protect, like saving the Chaos Codex.
Is the Cheeto really Honor the Prince, though? Isn't it really Honor the Prince?
Dude, spending 1 CP for +1 to wound, 1 CP for +1 strength and damage, and then 2 CP to double shoot that when you pop a once per game full reroll wounds.
Okay, so maybe half the Cheeto is Honor the Prince and half the Cheeto is Endless Cacophony, but yeah.
I think you get rocked by like the 100-something attacks coming your way that are basically like, oh, you don't have 2-up armor? Get F, get wrecked.
Do they ignore cover?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do, baby.
They ignore cover.
Ooh,
they also get +1 to hit with prescience. They reroll 1s from the captain, so yeah.
And they explode on 4s in melee.
Yeah, because of old prescience.
Hell yeah!
Old explosions. Right. Yeah, it's
stuff.
very funny. It's a codex to be careful with. It'll kill
we'll
you.
see. If next week we're talking about how Nick and I both got beat by the Emperor's Children guy who won the GW event, like, we're going to seem like savants.
Oh, dude, he's coming. He's coming to the event.
He's coming?
Even
Oh,
I'm
boy.
scared he's going to beat me again.
Do we know how drop pods and dreadclaws get ruled yet? Like, can you put more than half your points in them?
I don't know. I don't really deal with reserves that often, so
Okay. And I know there's kind of a contentious issue, one that I'll once we get like a definitive solution or answer from GW on or FLG at least, I'll talk about it later. But we had this issue at the GT I was at a couple weeks ago that I talked about when I brought the Tau, was that a guy played Emperor's Children and he brought 20 maybe 20, maybe even 30 Terminators and 2 Dreadclaws, and he was saying that the Dreadclaws allow him to mitigate the half your points on the board limit, and some people were arguing they only allow you to mitigate the half the unit count on the board limit. So I'm curious to see how that shakes out. But one way or another, Emperor's Children still a thing. For at least a couple weeks until their new codex comes out, and hopefully then we'll have some other Overlord Chaos Space Marines.
Might be a few months.
See you in
my
October,
guy. Yeah.
Year
We'll
of
see.
chaos, more like last 3 months of chaos.
But oh man, guys, today's chaos.
It's true.
Holy smokes.
Oh
Models
yeah,
are pretty
and
cool.
I got a good we got a good second meme for that one.
What's this? What's this, Naj?
So I was at work, unable to watch the GW, presentation, but I was getting some messages on my phone.
Nerd.
So while I was peeking at my phone, I saw a few cool Chaos models. You know, they're pretty cool. And then I saw the cover of the new Warzone book, and there we go. We got for all our listeners, this is the Shaq template meme where the top panel is him saying "I sleep," and it's just the new Chaos models that were previewed. And then the other one where he's opening his eyes and they're blazing the light of the sun. He's saying real shit. And it's the cover of the new Warzone Nephilim book with a Necron just staring on it, which makes me excited that maybe we'll get new Necron rules.
You can't tell me that Necron isn't the face of all Necron players. Like whenever that one rules change came out and they changed nothing about Necrons when they were bad, that was y'all's face right there.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Oh, such despair.
Now, the one thing I am sad about, I'm not getting my hopes up too high, because the last time there was a Necron on the cover of a GW book outside of our codex was the Pariah Nexus Psychic Awakening book, which had 0 Necron rules in it. It had a data sheet for Illuminor Xeris, which you also got when you purchased the model. So I know for a fact I did not buy that book.
And that was a Necron's book, was it?
That was
not?
that was the Necron Psychic Awakening we were waiting like 9 months for.
It had Necron's lore. Hope you enjoyed that, buddy.
Yeah. It had
Did
ways to
Necrons
play
legitimately
narrative
not
games.
get any actual Psychic Awakening rules?
They got Illuminor Xeris as a model. Yeah. Was it? The Psychic Awakening book had the Inquisition White Dwarf rolled into a new book, the rules for Inquisitor Draxus, the rules for Illuminor Xeris, and then like 30 pages of how to play narrative games in the Necron worlds. And I'm like,
Wow, that's sick.
Oh man,
Yeah.
what a great value.
it was
All right, cool. Well, that's all we got as far as meme review is concerned. Let's jump right on into the main event.
I'm seeing
Well-
something in the chat here. Someone saying, "Sorry to burst your bubble. We didn't have CSM." We are getting new rules, right? We're getting the whole Army of Renown, like Black Legion, and the new campaign book coming out like in a week or two. So,
Something like that, yeah.
yeah, isn't there? Yeah, there's some new
And
Chaos
it's not
Space
even
Marine
it's not a
rules
week or
coming.
two. Yeah, it goes up for pre-order this weekend if I recall
Yeah.
correctly.
So
Crazy.
we'll see.
'Cause there-
We'll see.
This weekend is you pre-order the Imperial Knights Codex, the Chaos Knights box that has the Chaos Knights Codex in it, and that Warzone.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a lot of
That's
stuff.
all this weekend. So yeah, we will definitely on the next episode be talking all about Naj and I at GW. But if we do particularly poorly, we may also spend some time on our 3 brand new books. So with that, the Zangor army. That's in there for sure.
The Zangors, I think a Covens supplement, and then like a Black Legion supplement.
That sounds about right.
Oh, I'm so ready for goats.
Cool.
I could be wrong. I don't know.
Cool.
No.
Alrighty. I mean, I'm excited to see T-Suns as they exist right now, man.
That's true.
Yeah.
We gotta shout out Matthew Ali for being an absolute Chad at Dallas Open. Did he cheat on stream? Maybe, but he's a Chad, and that's what matters. So, without further ado, let's get into our main event of the night, which is the GW Open in Seattle. Lukas unfortunately not going to be joining us, but Naj and myself will be in attendance. GW events are supposedly the best in the world. We got 8 full rounds. We got, I think the last time I checked, about 170 currently registered players. We'll see what the actual count is at DICE. And this right here, if you're listening live, is going to be your early opportunity to hear about our exact lists and tailor your butt off against them. You won't be given another opportunity later on. As the show will not be going out edited until after the event has already started. So, without further ado, Nick, what kind of Necron list are you taking this time?
Well, as you can see here, I'm taking the Seattle Special Harlequins. It's a variation of my Tau tipping Harlequins. I'm playing Harlequins. I've been toying around with some Necron lists, but I really haven't given them the practice they deserve for an 8-round tournament coming up. I was also thinking about playing Thousand Suns, but they kind of melted my brain after like 2 games, so I don't really want to play my first major with Thousand Suns. So I'm going to be playing Harlequins. I'm going to be playing Light. Pretty sure everyone's familiar with Light at this point. I'm playing a Shadow Seer with a Nero Disruptor. There's a few of these guns. These are the guns that do like Immortal on a hit, unless you're a vehicle. The Shadow Stone, so +3 inch range on auras and spells manifested. And Agent of Pandemonium. So Mirror Architect, gone. Goodbye. No longer taking it. Agent of Pandemonium is a awesome 6-inch aura of -1 attack, and with Shadowstone it's 9 inches. So I feel like a lot of AT armies out there are melee armies, so it's going to try to mitigate some of their punch when they come on in, and when the game gets kind of gritty and we start fighting each other. I got the Slapmaster. He runs really fast with Foot in the Future. He's got Segrex Rose, rerolling wounds, damage 3. Clown Baby, that is the second Troop Master that I call. He's got Storied Sword Veiled King, so 6 auto-hitting attacks that wound on 2s. Got the Solitaire, 4 squads of 5 troops, each with a Kiss and Embrace, 2 fusions and 2 Neros. 1 squad of 5 troops with a Kiss, 2 fusions and 2 Neros. 5 Star Weavers, that's the transports. 1 squad of 3 Skyweavers, those are the bikes with Star Bolas. And 1 squad of 3 Void Weavers. And I actually realized I forgot there's 1 squad of 5 troops just with blades. And that's the list. 2,000 points.
Good stuff. So, first and foremost, how has this changed since your last foray at Tau tipping? And what was sort of the reasoning behind those changes?
Yeah, I mean, big changes bounced status late. Void Weavers went up 40 points.
Oh, Mirror I forgot that was pre-balance.
Yeah. Mirror Architect was changed to not be an aura anymore and only affect core characters. And what else? I think those were the main changes.
Were there bikes in your last list?
There were not bikes in the last list. Oh, the last one was, yes. The thing that turns a dice into a 6 does not work in shooting anymore. It's a warlord trait. It works in melee only. So the Death Jester, gone. The guy who gets the guaranteed 6 hits every time he shoots is gone.
We got 2 questions in the chat here. Is this what Vanilla's running right now?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, we are both in the same Discord. I watch 40K Fight Club. I've been asking him, for some advice because he's been much more experienced with me than me. So I've just been kind of asking him where he thinks Light should go, and this is what he said, to try out. And I tried it out and enjoyed it. So yeah.
Cool beans. Have you made any changes to what Anthony's doing? Anything that you are feeling a little snowflakey about?
There were a few things. I was debating the Death Jester, but just like the more and more kind of rolling him out into Armor of Contempt, especially in cover, he's AP2. He doesn't do enough to threaten these characters. Lukas and I went through a few things in the meta that we thought he'd be good into, but we thought that in the end the bikes are better. The bikes are super fast. They go 22 inches and can still shoot and charge. So they give you the option to get Deadly Performance turn 1 if you want to, or they can get it later in the game. They can pull off some cool plays like tagging your opponent's tanks, and now they either have to spend CP to fall back and shoot, or maybe they can't fall back and shoot at all. So they've just been a real annoying thing for only 135 points, and I've liked them a lot.
In the Hammerhead meta, I think that something that can go 22 and charge is just an incredibly valuable thing to have.
Yeah.
We got a question from That's a Ninja. Why 1x3 and not 3x1 Void Weavers?
Yeah, so I like the 1x3 because it's just better for strats. You can kind of move them as one big clump, and you can fire and fade the whole clump. So when you only have 3, you kind of want them I mean, they're your hardest hitting anti-tank unit or like anti like elite unit, especially with armor contempt. Like my only AP4 on the list is the prism cannons on the Void Weavers and the fusion pistols, and the fusion pistols require you to get within 6 inches to shoot. So the Void Weavers are 36-inch range, right? So what I can do is pop out, shoot, and then fire and fade back behind terrain to keep them relatively safe all game if I need to. The squads of 3, like definitely, like the squads of 1 definitely are nice because your opponent might overkill them or underkill them, but they're not going to live all game because you're not fire and fading them behind terrain. So it's a lot easier for your opponent to deal with them.
Could you tell us about one, like, not maybe specific matchup, or just in general, like an archetype that you're very nervous about facing at Seattle, and then maybe one archetype that might be really good, but that you're very well versed in dealing with, or that you're not that worried about at Seattle?
Yeah, so that was another thing I was considering. I'm pretty worried about T-Suns and Grey Knights. With Armor of Contempt, they are really hard to deal with. Like back when I was fighting Custodes in like the old meta, shooting them with shuriken cannons and just making them take mass 3-ups, like they just die. Now it's like I'm shooting Terminators and making them take mass 2-ups because they ignore the AP1, so they don't just go away. And they also do a lot of mortal wounds, which my army or Harlequins in general just rely on being really hard to hit with ranged attacks, and hard to hit in general, and a 4-pinball, and mortal wounds just get past all of that. And we're really low wound count. Like my no prisoners is like 40 or 50, right? And I'm playing like all infantry and vehicles, so mortal wounds are pretty bad. That's I considered bringing that relic, the Laughing God's Eye. It's like a 6-inch aura of a 5 Feel No Pain versus mortals. But just like some people give me different opinions that like they don't think it does enough. They're like, you're such low like wound count. Like, why does it matter that you're saving a third of the wounds when they're about to do 20 mortal wounds to you? You know. So I'm gonna have to be pretty careful with positioning because of that. So I'm pretty scared of those matchups, mostly because of mortals and just high durability. I just kind of have to like go in when I think I can and hit them with as much as I can and see if I kill enough of their army. Is what I'm thinking. And then matchup that I'm feeling good about. I mean, all the matchups I practice in the old meta, like I think if I played Custodes now, I just like destroy them. Tau, I'm honestly not super worried about Tau. I know there's like these new flamer builds going around, so those would be exciting. But I think with Tau, like what is it? They don't have Armor of Contempt, so my characters run in and crump them pretty well. Fusion guns do a pretty good number on them. That Void Weaver squad's going to be a real pain in the ass for them to like get rid of, and it's going to be doing a lot of damage. Yeah, orcs. Not super worried about orcs. Lukas and I have been practicing it, and I do think Lukas is like the best orc player in this area. So there's a real threat for them like overloading me by charging me, but we played it on GW terrain, and like it's super hard for orc lists to play on GW terrain because of the things in the middle of the board just move block them, just moving around those ruins. Yeah, I'll answer some questions here.
Yeah, so our boy NS asks, what is your game plan against NIDS? Not that I know anyone taking NIDS to this event.
Yeah. I haven't been able to play into new NIDS really. Like I said, I've been pretty busy leading up to this tournament. I know Tyler's offered on TTS, but that's like a whole whole world for me that I need to sit down and figure out sometime. I just haven't had the ability to. The game plan into NIDS, as far as like I like just thinking about the Nero Disruptors, right? They do mortal wounds on hits, and I have 11 of them in the list. And the fusion guns are pretty strong. I mean, they're strength 8, AP4, D6 plus 2 damage. It's a lot of basically the Malceptor. Like if they go first, it's a bit of a problem because the Malceptor puts out the -1 strength aura, so now my fusion guns are wounding on 5s. I do think that I have a bit of a primary advantage. Like they do have a decent amount of obsec, but the obsec's like gargoyles and warriors, and outside of like the gargoyles are the only fast part. I have fast obsec inside of boats, so it's going to be this kind of, I think, kind of grindy game, like attacking their primary, trying to hold my own on primary, and also if they like make a positioning mistake, or like if I see an opening on like a key part of their army, just like blasting in there and trying to like rip it apart. The worst thing that can happen though is like blasting into the Malceptor and not killing him, and then he just goes nuts on me next turn with mortal wounds. So I've also done a few things like the Slapmaster. He's got a 29-inch threat range, and he just like on average like kills the Neurothrope. So if he's within 29 inches of the Neurothrope, I'm probably going to just send him in. Solitaire also kills the Neurothrope pretty easily. So I think it's just kind of picking away at their pieces and trying to put them on the back foot, trying to make them panic. I don't know if I could beat someone like Tyler's caliber. I think Tyler has got this matchup pretty well figured out, and it's a stronger army. So
Speaking of that solitaire, Adam Davies asks, no Prince of Sins on the solitaire?
yeah, Prince of Sins is all right. It's -1 to hit, no rerolls for 20 points, I believe. My experience with the solitaire is often when you send him in because he has a 3-up invul, most people just like mortal wound him down. Like Nids are going to be able to mortal wound him down. Eldar is going to be able to. T-Suns, Grey Knights. Like the few armies that aren't are probably going to be, I mean, like, your average Marines. But he's usually going on a one-way ticket there. So I could have shuffled some stuff around to take him in there, but like 20 points for something that like only matters in like a matchup or two. I don't know. I didn't really like
For
it
sure.
when he's usually going on a one-way ticket to death.
Yeah, I get that. Speaking of interesting little tech choices, Sam asks, how helpful have you found the neurodisruptors to be?
So some matchups they're not super useful. But like that one game I played against Sisters at the RTT, they were incredibly useful. Just rolling a 3 and killing a sister, getting around armor contempt. Okay.
How many points are they?
They're 5 points. You can take 2 per Harlequin squad. And they're 5 points on the character. So that's like I had 5 points at the end, so I threw it on the Shadow Seer because she's gonna be running around and out of the boat a lot. So yeah, they're good. I'll kill them usually before the fusion pistols. Like it's usually like guy with no upgrades, then the neurodisruptors, and last but not least fusion pistols. But being able to bypass armor contempt, quite strong. Being able to wound high toughness targets on just like a 3. Be like, all right, take damage.
Makes sense. And the last thing I wanted to ask about, we're still playing light. I've heard a lot of hype about Dark lately. Just not buying it?
No, I actually I really like Dark. I want to experiment with Dark. I just haven't had the time to really make a list, like a Dark list that I'm happy about. So I'm just going with what I know for this tournament. But for Dark, I'd probably play like a similar setup of characters. Obviously, you can't take the Shadow Stone. That's the Light Relic. I don't even know if I'd take Agent of Pandemonium at that point. I was thinking something like 3 full boats and then like some bikes. So I really, really, really like the Dark Slapmaster. You take Player of the Dark, so every wound of a 5-up deals immortal, and you still give him Segs Rose for full reroll to wounds. So that guy runs in like Strength 5, AP 3, Damage 3. Every 5 ignores invuls and is immortal. Pretty good. So yeah, I'm excited to give it that and some Necron list some tries after this tournament.
Very cool. Anything else you want to know about this Harlequin list, Lucas? Alrighty. Then we'll move right along to what I'm taking. We're going to try to keep the show a little bit lighter and tighter this week, guys, because we got a lot to do. So I'm playing good old-fashioned Tyranids. We're the new kid on the block, and we are a bit of a bully, so my apologies in advance to anyone who has the misfortune of playing me this weekend. I hope to be a gentleman as much as a general. So we'll see how that shakes out for me. So I've got, didn't update the detachment. This is a battalion and a patrol. We got 2 detachments here nowadays. We got and these are in no particular order. The choices are, we got a Flyrant with the Reaper of Obliterax. We got a Walkrant with double heavy venom cannon. GW is saying that this is legal until it's FAQ'd, so we're going to take it. That guy's got Pathogenesis. That's going to let him reroll a hit and a wound every time he shoots, and Direct Guidance to hand out the +1 to hit to a core unit. We got the squad of 5 Tyrant Guard, 4 with Talons, 1 with a whip and a sword. We got a Neurothrope with Tendrils. We got 2x10, that's the handout, the 3d6 to cast twice. Per turn, we got 2 squads of 10 Gargoyles. We got 5 Warriors with Double Sword and Death Spitter. Lashbone on the guy with the cannon, with Adrenal Glands and Hooks. We got 3 Warriors with the same build. I don't think they actually have the Glands and Hooks, but still the Double Sword, Death Spitter, and the Lashbone cannon. We got ourselves 2 beautiful Maliceptors, 3 Venom Thropes, 3 Zone Thropes, Parasite with Alien Cunning and the Jet Station Sack. We discussed that combo at length last week, so if you want to hear all about it, go check that out. And then we got 5 Raveners with Rending Claws and Death Spitters, and we top it off with 2 singular Biovores. Yeah, so the list is functionally pretty similar to what I've been going down in the past, trying to stick with what I know pretty well. I would rather have more reps than a better list is my personal sort of MO, and these are all tools that I'm very comfortable with that do very silly things, and should be able to put out real hard. Do the mortals from the Reaper ignore Feel No Pains? As far as I can tell, yes. That's my reading on it. If a judge at GW tells me they don't, that's cool. It looks like they do to me. I will definitely see if I can ask someone who could tell me otherwise that later, but rules is written, it looks pretty clear to me that they do. Sam asks, how have you found Double Maliceptor? Says he's a big fan of it. Double Maliceptor's fantastic. It just is. There's kind of no two ways around it. The output is fantastic, and it really, Lukas has said this a couple times. Maliceptors are the new Hive Guard, and by that I don't particularly mean that they deal with things behind a wall super well. Like, they do an okay job at that. But what I mean by Maliceptors are the new Hive Guard is, if your opponent has 2 Maliceptors, it fundamentally changes the way you have to play the game. You simply cannot play your normal game plan if your normal game plan involved running out into the middle and waiting for a turn, right? Like, that's not an option. If your normal game plan involved sitting back and letting your opponent kind of do their thing and trying to disrupt them a little bit and tank a lot of damage, you can't do that. It's not going to work. You got to do something about the Maliceptors, and you got to do it now. And having one of them just doesn't put that kind of pressure on your opponent in a way that having 2 does. So that's what I'm going with. I know that my boys Alex McDougall and John Lennon will also both be in attendance here. We've been planning and talking a lot about what we're trying to get done here. We're all taking slightly different lists. We all have at least 1 Maliceptor. I don't think we all have 2 though. So we'll see if that ends up being the right call, but gets 2 thumbs up from me. Next question down here. This looks like a real fun and dynamic list. Pretty cool. What's the general game plan? The general game plan is to play like a bitch. That's kind of just how my brain works. 2x10 Gargs and the Parasite are both kind of not super popular things. Like, they show up enough, but like all of them in one place is kind of a lot. And the reason that I love that so much is because they let me play the null primary game really well. If my opponent... if the scenario is appropriate to do so, I'm very happy to throw Gargoyles forward, score Stranglehold, score R&D, leave the table. And I'll take Stranglehold to the last and R&D, and I'll do that. And if we're both going to sit at a deadlock primary and I don't have to trade and you do, I'm going to win the game. So that's the option. The second option is what the Maliceptors are doing. They can either, if I'm going to play that real cagey sort of style, they can sit back, they can really punish anyone who dares come near me. Or, because my list punishes coming near me already, what they usually do is they full gas, unga bunga, deploy on the line and just go. Because you don't need them, as it turns out. So it's, just let them die. They're not your to the last. They're there to do a ton of damage. They're impossible to kill, so let your opponent throw every shot they have into them while you rack up points and draw out their more important units. The Maliceptors really are the new distraction Carnifexes, so while they're out there doing that, opponent comes out, tries to deal with the Maliceptor, maybe they do, maybe they don't, and then Flyrant, Raveners, Warriors, Zoanthropes, just bop, 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 knock them, set them up, knock them back down. But at the end of the day, it's all about playing the points game, playing the mission, playing the primary, and scoring decent secondaries or holding my opponent down. Sam asks, if double Venom Cannon was no bueno, what would I have taken instead? It's a really good question. I probably don't take the Walkrint at all, because I like him with the 1 Venom Cannon and the sword, maybe even with Shard Gullet, maybe. But it's... What he does when he's double heavy Venom Cannon, and the reason that I think that if you're allowed to take him, you absolutely should, is that he forces your opponent to hide. If you don't have him, there's nothing worth hiding from in this list, really, and your opponent gets to play for positioning. The moment there are 6 shots at Ballistic Skill 2 with a reroll at 9/4/4 with a reroll to wound coming out that they can't target because he's going to be behind the Tyrant Guard, like, your opponent, it, again, forces your opponent to totally change their game plan, and that's great. So swapping out for him for no gun seems questionable, but it probably looks like bringing Deathleaper back into the list. Deathleaper's a lot of fun. I think he's a little bit more flashy than he is productive at times, but I like him. I see the appeal. Standing outside of 12 while towing terrain and not getting shot at is very nice, but that's just kind of how it goes right now. So it probably means Deadlieber. The other thing that's really nice is that he's to the last, so I would have to go back basically to the list that I was talking about last week, where I have the 6-man warrior squad that I have to deal with as to the last. It gets a little messy, but we'll make it work. Colby says he'd rather have more rips than a better list too. Colby, I don't smoke, but I'm glad that you have a good time. That's a Ninja asks what my plan is for Hail of Doom. Hail of Doom is definitely a very real threat. I got a little bit of practice into it. It has a couple of issues in my experience. The big thing is that obviously it's made of paper, and the medium thing is that it has a bit of trouble playing mission shenanigans. So I often can outscore it by a small amount, but then there's nothing they can do about it. Hail of Doom lists have no way of getting to the last, so those are free. My Strangleholds are free, and my what's my third secondary? Oh, and the action-related secondaries are usually pretty free. And Hail lists generally have a bit of difficulty trying to mess with my primary game, so I'm not freaking out about the list fully. They have the tricks to do it, absolutely. And, if Nick were going to show up or Colin were going to show up with it, I'd be real scared, but neither of those guys are coming. Hank is playing Oathway. We'll see how that goes, but a good Hail of Doom player is a threat. They're not the thing I'm freaking out the most about right now. Sam asks how GW ruled Encircle the Prey. My understanding, and don't quote me on this, I will absolutely be double-checking the judges. My understanding is scoring and then leaving, totally fine. Multiple times a turn, not so much. I believe we are playing it as you only get to use it once per turn, which is the correct, is the reasonable interpretation. I'm glad they went with that. I wish they would make any of this public. Please, GW, if you're listening to me, put out event FAQs. Please. But anyway, that's my understanding there. Do you have a general adaptation you will switch to or keep the hit roll? The hit roll is nice, especially with that Flyrant, or that Walkrant, when you roll 6 dice on 2s and get to say that I get to reroll 2 of them. It feels real saucy. I didn't mention, Pathogenesis also gives them plus 8-inch range, so 44-inch heavy venoms instead of 36 is a really meaningful difference into a lot of Tau these days. So the hit roll is nice, but I don't like it usually. My go-to is generally going to be +1 charge. That's kind of just the easy one. But into Tau, I really like ignore charge mods.
Remind me,
and not just for the. Sorry,
which biomorphologies does Leviathan get access to?
Leviathan doesn't get Lurk. It gets access to Hunt and Feed.
Okay.
Lurk is generally considered to be the best. Unless of course you're at Dallas and your name rhymes with Shmreven Schmowler. But that's not the point. I'm just calling people out today. So the options, just to run through them real quick, are 3-inch normal moves. Plus 3 inches to consolidation. I don't think that's particularly great. Fall back and shoot at -1. This list doesn't need that. +1 charge is fantastic. Take it all the time. The 6-inch pregame move with Endless Multitude I use surprisingly often. It's a really nice little bit of tech to get on top of your opponent in a way they weren't necessarily expecting, or to get back in a way that you might not have needed. It's a good kind of get-out-of-jail-free card if you don't think you're going to need the +1 charge very much, like if my opponent is going to come to me. If I'm playing into Lukas, I'm probably taking that, because if you're going to rush me down with melee and I can go park a wall right in front of you made of gargoyles, that's going to make my life a lot easier. Something to consider at least. The Everyone Heroics I have yet to take. I like it conceptually, but in practice, anything that gets close enough to me to be heroic into is probably taking a beating. Though in theory, it lets you open some really interesting plays trying to bodyguard your Maliceptors, which is cool. I like it. It hasn't been something I've taken a lot yet, but it's something that I will always think about for sure. You got something to add, Nick?
Oh, I feel like that one would be pretty good into, what I was saying my style would be to take down NIDs, which is basically towing a troop onto an objective and flipping it, right? Mm-hmm. That mid objective, if you don't have any obstacle on it, you just park a big character there and be like, hey dude, here's a big monster. Here's this big monster you gotta deal with, or else someone Hero can do.
The unfortunate reality is that the Maliceptors don't hit hard enough in combat to kill 5 troops.
Yeah.
So it's useful on the Warriors, Venomthropes, Tyrant Guard, and Raveners, and
you don't want them out.
Yeah, Exactly. I could see it being really nice for the Tyrant Guard on occasion, especially in the late game, but I think I'm going to need some more testing on that one.
Okay.
The 6 is 2 wound at range or +1 AP, not for me. There's definitely lists that want it. This isn't one of them. The ignore hit penalties for guns, don't care about that at all. Army-wide ignore Overwatch is sneaky, really great at times if you're going to try to throw a lot into Tau, but we have the spell for it, and this list tends to be very point-and-click. That thing dies. So I don't think it's super huge. The Relentless Hunger is the most fun one. That's the every time I fail a charge, I get to make a normal move of 3 inches. Which basically, if the opponent positions themselves correctly, turns into Fire and Fade in a lot of situations. Where, like, we're playing GW, so I have solid walls. You move something into the middle that I'm going to throw my Hive Tyrant into murder. The Warriors, with their Venom Cannons and stuff, walk out, take a bunch of shots all the way downrange, not at the thing in the middle, but at anything they want, and then declare like an 11 or 12 inch charge into the thing you put in the middle, fail, and then just back up behind the wall. It's very funny. It's a real good time. It allows a lot of cute play and shenanigans. List is not very well built around it. I think it's more useful for a shooting army, but whatever the case, it seems really cool. And I think one of the best ones, Unstoppable Swarm, ignoring all mods to move, advance, and charge. This is great into Tau for obvious reasons and less obvious reasons. The obvious reason is that Tau have a lot of charge mods, and like saying you can't make me -2 is almost always going to be better than saying I am +1. But the other thing it's great for is forests. It's great on player place terrain and on GW, because on GW terrain, particularly on like a table quarters kind of thing, where like I want to rush up and around, I guess I'm mirrored, so up and around my flank, there's a big old forest right there, which if I park both Maliceptors towed into the forest and in Venom Thrope range, then even with a Marco, the Hammerheads hit me on 5s, and then they wound me on 4s. It's real juicy. So if you can take advantage of that and not incur the -2 movement for it, kind of spicy. So that's the other one to look out for. So it's mostly going to be +1 charge and or ignore move and charge mods, but there's other stuff that, got to keep your eye out. Always be looking at all your options. NS asks, what has been giving me the most trouble during playtesting? Hammerheads are scary. They just are. But I'm getting a pretty firm handle on that matchup. If I go down to Tau at this event, I'll be real bummed. I have not gotten to play into new Grey Knights yet, or Thousand Sons, but conceptually they scare me a lot. Watching Matthew Lee play versus Nick on stream and just park 20 Terminators right in his opponent's face with Magnus, a little bit dicey. I mean, he beat John Lennon playing not the same list, but a vaguely similar list. And that's, that should be scary enough. But just the fact that Magnus is out there Magnus has a +2 with a reroll or something silly?
Yeah, he gets full rerolls to deny. Yep.
Yeah. So that's a big problem that would need some dealing with. Obviously, in theory, Magnus should go down to the wall crit pretty quickly. John apparently had some not great dice around that situation, but so it goes. So that's the thing that I'm concerned about. In my personal games, I
feel like Grey Knights are spooky too. The +1 deny, 5 Feel No Pain versus Mortals on a unit on an army with quite a bit of wounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Grey Knights Thousand Sons are definitely the thing that I'm worried about. Oh, because I don't have the reps into them, and they on paper have what it takes. We'll see. People keep talking about Sisters to me. I don't see it.
I don't either.
Because like Sisters are real. Like, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna slam Repentia into Warriors who are transhuman -1 damage? What?
I think if you play the pace of their game, like the game I was watching with Jack on stream that he won against Nids, like it just seemed like he wanted to slow the game down a lot, and the Nid player kind of fell into that same trap. And
Yeah,
like,
Sisters, you gotta go.
Like,
you gotta
threat overload him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jack basically got to do all the charges he wanted to do when he wanted to do them, and that's how you lose to Sisters, definitely.
Can't let that happen. Fortunately, as far as I know, the best Sisters player in attendance is going to be high off his ass, so like, we'll see how it goes. Is Ryan coming by chance?
Ryan Sherowitz, yeah, he's coming. I believe he might be
sweet.
playing Sisters.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'd love to see. I bet he'll do real well. He's great.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's that. Sam asked if I've got any testing with the Harpy, what my thoughts have been on it. I don't like the Harpy. I don't own one, and I'm not going to go get one. Why don't you like the Harpy, Tyler? It's so freaking good. Its output is insane. I don't care. It doesn't hide. I need to hide. And like, I'm being kind of silly when I say that, but what I mean in practice is you're putting a lot of eggs into one basket at that point. If you're going double Maliceptor and double Harpy, and the Hammerheads are just going to give you a really, really bad time. Obviously, the Hammerheads could roll poorly, but the odds that you go second into them and they roll reasonably well is way too high for me to be willing to accept. And I think there's going to be a lot of Hammerheads at this event, and they're just gone. They got the rerolls that they need, the Transhuman, the 4-Pinball, none of it matters. They're going to blow them out of the sky. It's going to be a bad time, and I don't like relying on going first that much. I admit that the output is super impressive. It's really good, but it's just not doing it for me. It's not doing it for me.
I would love to play into some Hammerheads. Is what I would say. I think that'd be pretty good.
Really? Like, they hit your void on a 4, they re-roll, they kill it on a 2? That's fun for you?
They can't re-roll the hit.
Oh,
hit it on a 5.
Also, how are they ever seeing Nick before Nick Fusion Pistols them 12 times first?
Yeah,
fair
all
enough.
my things are
fair
AP4, and they have a 3-up armor.
All right, Nick, you go knock out all the Tau players. I'll knock out. What were you concerned about again? I don't even remember.
Grey Knights, T-Suns.
Great. Okay, I'll figure that out.
Yeah.
If I don't have
You
to
go
play
beat
any
Max
Tau.
for me.
Okay, yeah, works for
I
me.
do have one question for you, Tyler.
Yep.
How hard are you gonna get Nids nerfed after this tournament?
Oh man, that's the goal. We gotta put this faction in the ground. All you bandwagoners, I want you out of my faction. I want you out right now. Yeah. I want this faction to be terrible. Here's what has to stay: the Parasite with OBSEC 5 and the Sack, the Biovores. Those have to stay. Everything else can go. Take it, GW. I don't want it. I don't need it.
Right.
I'll play with other stuff. There's tons of fun stuff in the book. Make those things, leave those alone and make other things go away. Big sack energy on the Parasite. Oops. Thanks, Ben. Respect the sack. All right, that's gonna be. I'm gonna be selling T-shirts that say that. Respect the sack. All right. Best Spore Mine jank play. Oh man. Oh, Spore Mines. How I love them. They do so much shenanigans. I think that the problem with Spore Mines is that you want to use them like instinctively. You're like, oh, this is a move blocking tool, even though, it's a fake move blocking tool, but you know how to do it. You know how to set them up. You can do that, absolutely, and it's the best thing into the mirror, first of all, being like, hey, that Maliceptor. Like, at first I was like, oh, they're great in the mirror because I screen with them, and then when they smite, they kill them first. No. They're great in the mirror because you park them right in front of the Maliceptor, and the Maliceptor says, oh, I can only move how many inches? Oh, wait, I can't move any inches. Darn. Because they'd land on top of your Spore Mine. So that's great, just to keep them down. What they're really good for is asking, are you sure you want to go there? There's a lot of spots on GW terrain, especially, where you can really comfortably park the Spore Mines out of line of sight. And you can say, hey, you can't see these guys. If you're going to come on this objective, you're taking 5 mortal wounds next turn. That's just the reality of the situation. And I think that they're more consistently useful for that than necessarily for the move blocking, as much fun as it is, and I will take every opportunity to do it. But I would rather do that than try to get people to move over them. You can get around it if you know what you're doing. So just take the guaranteed damage instead of anything crazier than that. The janky version of that, though, is what I've been talking about this whole damn time, and I hope people are listening to me. Spore Mines are a threat saturation tool. If your opponent is playing an army that only has 6 activations, they cannot afford to put one of those into a unit of Spore Mines, and the penalty for that is going to be huge. So having a unit of Spore Mines means that the Parasite it's to sneak onto an objective. It means that the Warriors aren't going to get shot at. It means that the Maliceptor isn't going to take all the piddly fire as much as it might otherwise. So I love them for that. I will mention, I was very seriously considering taking a Sporocyst after seeing how well Kit did with him at the Dallas. I love Sporocyst so much. It's like my favorite thing ever. I was jumping up and down. No, you can't take them. They're unusable. And that's because I asked GW, and they ruled that the deploy anywhere on the table outside of 12 does not override the 3-inch rule for fortifications and terrain. Such a bummer. so you can't actually like reasonably hide them. If you're currently planning on taking a Sporocyst to a GW event, just stop right now. Just stop right now, and probably for any other event as well, which is unfortunate, but I love them. They spawn 6 mines a turn for 95 points. It's beautiful, but moving on. Colby says that Sisters deny an unmodified 5 and have more denies than I have casts. I don't believe that. If you want to take the deny on 5s, you don't have exploding 6s, and that's a pretty big chunk out of your damage output, so that's fine by me. I don't need to Psychic to kill you. Like, if you're playing Sisters, my plan involves Raveners. That's my plan. My plan is my 1 unit of Raveners is going to table you. And honestly, it's a good plan. It's a really good plan. So, we'll see how that goes. Ben says Biovores are straight up broken. He's not wrong, but don't tell GW. They're my favorites.
How many shots do Raveners put out?
Raveners? Only 15.
Okay. I mean, it's a fair bit less than 20 Noise Marine seeds. I don't know if you're going to table Colby with that.
Fair enough. If he's ready for 20 Noise Marines, he's probably ready for the Raveners. But the Raveners then have 25 attacks at AP4, which do an okay job at cutting through Armor of Contempt last time I checked.
That is pretty good.
Sam says that if it's any reassurance, since they've had NIDs going 20-0 and 15-5 into Granites and T-Suns, sounds good. Reaper of Obliterax goes burr. Abso-frickin-lutely. So we'll see how that goes. Ben wants us to respect the sack shirt. We'll get working on that. We got shirts coming up someday. It's going to be great. We got a shout out for our boy, the sexy Benny Way. And that's about what we got there. You guys have any other questions about what's going on in NIDS? Or we should move on to listener questions from the Discord.
Looks pretty brutal. I am glad I'm not going and probably not going to be on the receiving end of that.
Yeah. 2 Malceptors is an interesting choice, like you said. Because a lot of people, I think, have a plan to deal with the Malceptor. Like, that's what I hear a lot about. Like, this is how I deal with the Malceptor in the list. Now you got 2. Like, even if, like, you're cutting some stuff for that, people are going to, like, look at that and panic, you know? The mental math going through their head is going to probably be tough.
Yeah, we shall see. There's a lot of other stuff that I want to play with. I want them to nerf this book so I can play with the other cool stuff. But at the moment, this is what we're doing. We'll see how it goes.
You just got to get it nerfed, dude.
Yeah, exactly. I will say, one of the things that's interesting to pivot to, Nick, you were talking about how one of NID's big weaknesses, and if you want to beat NID's, it's absolutely the weakness to exploit, is that they don't have fast OBSEC. Fast, hitty OBSEC. All 3 at once. Which you're like, that is such a specific thing. But it's a real issue. Because it means that often you can swipe objectives out from under them, or if you can hold an objective with OBSEC, it can be hard for them to dig you out of that if you're, you know, close enough to a wall that a Hive Tyrant can't charge you. The solution to that, in my mind, is Raveners plus Swarmlord. I think that is a combination that is being slept on big time. Because Swarmy gives core OBSEC, and he gives them full rerolls. And that means that your Raveners go burr. I'm very excited.
It's done in the command phase?
Yeah, in the command phase. Okay. How did GW rule the Maliceptor Imperative? To the best of my knowledge, you get up to 4 casts. Because a Psychic Action is not a cast. And I know that there are people who are telling me that that's not the case, that it works, and they are huffing copium as far as I can tell. The number of powers that you cast is not a special rule. So, how many casts or actions can I do? 4 total. Action, cast, stratagem. That's what it's called. Ben says as he's got Swarmy on one of his lists to bump up 3-man warriors. That's awesome. Didn't fancy a Tyrannocyte. I don't own any Tyrannocytes. I have a Tyrannocyte list that I think is really fun. GW is definitely not ruling. You can deep strike at 1 inch. For the record, neither did Dallas. But I think that there's a NIDS Alpha Rush list that no one is taking, and if I owned 5 Tyrannocytes, I would be playing it.
That list
or at least
sounds
consider it.
Like so much fun to play against.
It's another one of those where it's like I need GW to explain to me how drop pod rules work, where if I can actually have more than 1,000 points off the table with drop pods. But man, if I can, it's funny. It's big funny. So We'll see how that shakes out. So that's what we got in terms of lists. We'll see how they go. We're going to run through this a lot more briefly in our next episode so we can jump right into those games, because GW events are 8 rounds long, so we will have 16 games to talk about. So we won't be focusing on the lists too much there. So let's jump right in. We got a bunch of great questions from the Discord, and our goal of keeping the show under an hour is going to fail, but that's fine. All right.
We'll just keep it quick. We got 5 questions in 5 minutes, right?
We got like 11 questions. But
okay, 30 seconds each.
No, I don't mind going 15 minutes over. Okay. We got from the Discord, Sam asks, what is the biggest thing that you've changed in your list design specifically to prep for GW terrain or GW format? What do you think, Nick? Nick, you're
Unmute
muted.
yourself.
Whoops, sorry. I was clicking things, so I muted the mic. I wouldn't say that I changed my list too much for GW terrain. I practiced it on GW terrain quite a few times and found out that Harlequins are already very strong on it. Theoretically, the boats should be short enough that they can hide behind the ruins. That's what I've been told, that the ruins are tall enough they can. If I show up day of and I find out they can't, my plan drastically changes. So it's more just my play style. You can't be like as well. I don't think I've actually been on. Okay, yeah, just like learning like what angles I can cut, which like ruins I can touch to see people, that sort of thing. Like the lists in practice, like Necron and like T-Sun's lists, like I had a lot more infantry in them, just like those theoretical ones I was thinking of bringing. I think we all know infantry is much stronger on GW terrain because of all the like large ruins you can hide inside and that you can like blast out of, that sort of thing. So yeah, nothing really big, just more practice and played a bunch of games on it so I can get a feel for like kind of what my threat ranges are and what angles I can cut to shoot people with my Harlequin list.
Yep. I looked at similar sorts of things. Initially, I was thinking about cutting down to single Maliceptor for GW because it can be really easy to gum up monsters, but actually it's kind of not. Once they break into the middle, they really have a lot of free reign, and what I ended up eventually realizing the really big thing is that on GW terrain, I feel like I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% this, but I'm fairly certain the majority of the map of the time you play on the map with the two little ones in the middle, not with the two little ones on the ends. And on that map, you can, I've run all the math here, you can very comfortably hide a Maliceptor from so many damn angles in the center of the table that he feels super comfy there. So I'm excited about him. I had Death Leaper in the list for a while and really liked him on GW terrain, and the Walkrint is going to do the same thing, which is that having something meaningful that can be untargetable on your home field objective is really important. On like Tide of Convergence, for example, your back objective is out in the open. It just is. And that is real scary, so putting someone that can't be targeted, either because they're lookout surd or they can't be targeted outside of 12 or what have you, big help. Walkrint is going to be great for that. The Raveners also came into the list initially as a GW terrain thing. I'm not taking them out if I'm going off of GW terrain. They're fantastic. But they were initially like, okay, I need a unit that can go box to box and do damage, and Raveners are just that. All right, next question. Hot takes of who will take out the event. Who do you think's going to win, Nick?
Oh, I've been saying it for a while. I think Alex McDougall's pretty advantaged. He's a very knowledgeable NIDS player. I mean, we talked to him quite a few episodes ago. He knows like what he's talking about a lot. He did really well at LVO this year, so I'm thinking my money's on him. So,
what about you, Lucas?
Nick's gonna win. Yeah. I've been saying it forever. I'm still believing in you, Nick. Let's go.
Well, thank you, Lucas.
That's my vote.
Good stuff. I'm annoyed that Nick stole my take. I was totally going to vote for Alex because I think that he is. I think that he's got a little bit of sauce that I'm excited to see, and he impresses every single time he plays.
Yeah, I guess mine isn't really a hot take. It's kind of like, so.
Yes, we'll see.
Who else?
Nick, you've got some fans.
Oh, thank you.
Who else is going to overperform though? Like if they're not going to win.
I think. Well, local people that I'm looking forward to, I think Harry's going to surprise some people.
Harry!
He's going to roll. He's this guy who only plays Firstborn Salamanders in our area, and his army suddenly got way better. He whips out some tech that, like, you wouldn't expect. He's like, yeah, I'm going to do this, like, one flamer on this and spend 3 CP and, like, take the objective and kill you. And I'm like, sure, dude, I don't know what just happened, all right? So, I think he's going to surprise some people. I don't know if his like army has the oomph to take out NIDS because he especially refuses to play any Primaris units. But he's gonna whip out some stuff that like some people aren't gonna be like aware of. Like, do you know what? Like, I mean, Brayarth does. Has anyone ever seen Brayarth on the board? You know, what's the other thing? The crazy strat, Sworn Protectors. Is that the one? The one where they
Born
like buddy
Protectors.
Overwatch, and heroic 2d6 towards you. Yeah, that
pretty
he pulls
So
off some
Bomb
crazy.
stratagem.
It's
I
crazy
think-
strat.
I think Harry's going to overperform. I think I was saying it earlier. If Ryan Sherwick is there and he's bringing sisters, I think he's going to go top 16. That dude is a champ. Very
Max
excited.
too.
What is Max playing? Is he playing a real list?
He's
Yeah,
playing Grey
Max-
Knights, dude.
he's playing
This
Grey
is
Knights.
really
Okay.
scary.
He tested it at the RTT, and he kind of realized he has like two plans. One where he just like doesn't interact with the opponent and scores 97, and then one where he can interact with the opponent if he thinks he can like take their damage on the chin and just smash them. His list is very strong. It's like no Dread Knights, just like 10 paladins, bunch of strikes, and other infantry and some characters.
Love to see
Just
it.
like him talking about like what he can do. It's
Max,
like
Max
I'm
is-
scared of that list.
Yeah. He's such a wild guy because he will either go 5-0 or 0-5 and like no middle ground.
Yeah.
So I am ready to see him absolutely rock some people if he's playing to win here. That's gonna be great. Okay, who is your favorite 40K Frontiers host? And this question was asked by Sam Lemon, not to bias you at all there.
I mean, Sam's in the chat right now watching us, so I'm pretty big fan of him.
Yeah, that's a solid nudge in that favor. for
So
sure.
so is Ben, for the record.
Oh, what's up, dude? You too. Let's go.
A lot
you
of
know,
Sam
to
questions.
not say someone that's in chat, I'll go with Alex the First, the one I met at LVO, the one who's not from New Zealand. He's pretty cool.
Yeah, shout out to my boy Alex. So he's a great freaking dude. We had an awesome time at SoCal together. Love that guy. But absolutely every single one of those Frontiers guys knows absolutely what's up. Their last show they did was on recent tournaments that have been going off in Colombia. Freaking awesome stuff, man. If you're not listening to Frontiers, you're not getting the full picture of 40K on the planet. So definitely check it out. Crazy good content. Okay. If you could reveal or announce one thing at the Warhammer World Reveal Show, what would it be and why? I.e. a new tournament circuit, release date of a thing, a new army's coming out. Sky's the limit. What would you want to see GW release? No matter what, no holds barred.
Go ahead, Nick.
Oh, I need a second to think about this.
It's gonna be something Necron related.
Oh well, that's number one. New Necron rules. Oh, I would love that.
I am so ready for World Eaters and Emperor's Children Codex. I know that they're like probably in the pipeline. I mean, World Eaters for sure, probably Emperor's Children at this point. So it's like not that original, but like I'm just so ready. It's so cool. And those models are so old and they could look so cool. I'm so excited for that. That's my vote. What about you, Tyler? Do you have any thoughts?
Nick, you got something?
I got mine. Mine is that GW announces they have acquired Wahapedia and are replacing their app with it. I despise the GW app. It is annoying to operate, annoying to move around in, annoying to make lists in.
You guys remember I don't think either of you went to the LVO preview, but at the LVO preview, Mike Brandt was like, "Hey guys, by the way, the app is fixed. It'll be rolled out in 2 weeks, and everything's going to be great." And we're like, "Oh, that's awesome, Mike!" And spent a couple minutes. So
It's been a
we'll
bit
see.
more than 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever that is, that's annoying. What I would love to see GW announce is an actual, like, is it too much of me to ask for more Tyranid models? I had so much fun painting the Parasite this week. I want plastic lictors. I want plastic biovore pyrovores. I'm so tired of this metal and fine cast nonsense. I would. Oh, you know what? Here's a more fun answer. I would love a Forces of the Hivemind Army of Renown.
True.
I think that would be
cool.
so cool to actually.
There's so little reason to soup right now, right?
Yeah, you can soup because it's fun. You can soup because the best in faction forces is kind of wide open right now. Like those are the reasons that I can see to do it. And man, something that said, hey, you don't get crossfire, you don't get imperatives, you don't get cult traits or high fleet traits, like Disciples of Bellicor style. You get this instead. Go nuts and do something totally different. I think that'd be so much fun. I love forces. I think it's the most thematically cool army ever for me personally. Love it. Would love to see some forces specific content. We said no holds barred. I know it's not going to happen. I don't care.
No,
It'd be really cool. All right. Next question. How important is the announcement of digital points, and how often do you think we should see changes happen? I assume he means from what would we like to have happen, not what do we expect to have happen.
Is this referring to the thing back in November where they? Oh no, that was the balance
That's
data.
the announcement.
This is today. They announced the new Knockman pack that Nick is doing, and chapter approved. The part with the points doesn't exist anymore.
My God, I must have missed this.
Yeah,
Okay,
they're no longer they're no longer selling you the book with the points in it, the Munitorm Field Manual. Instead, it's just a PDF that goes on Warcom every 6 months.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So it's free. Everyone gets it, and it's.
I wasn't buying it anyway.
Yeah, we obviously think it's a huge, big change. I think it's fantastic. The fact that that maybe that means that the frickin' book costs a little bit less would be really nice if we're going to buy it every 6 months. But the interesting question I think here from a competitive standpoint is how often should points updates happen? Let's assume that everything else stays the same. We're going to get a balanced data slate every 3 months. We're going to get new missions every 6 months. We're going to get like vague FAQs as necessary to fix bad wording. How often do you want points adjustments, assuming that none of those things involve points adjustments?
6 months seems pretty good to me.
I think. I think when they need to happen, like you could have a schedule. I guess that's what the bounce status slate's for. But like, and they've even like pushed it up. Like they pushed up the one with Harlequins and Tau and Christos, and I think that was like super good. Like when you look at your state of the game, and if you're like, this game is gonna be miserable if we let it go on for another 3 months, update it like 2 weeks from then. You know, you can do that now. It's online. You don't have to go like, all right, send it to the printers. It'll be out in 6 months. You know, like you don't have to wait. Like once you have a good amount of data, you can be like, okay, let's like we have these amount of games played. Like let's throw some adjustments here and then wait like a month or two and see what happens. You know, so. Yeah. I think a scheduled release so people know when it's coming would be cool, but then like emergency points updates when they need to happen is perfectly reasonable.
Okay. Lucas, I don't know if you heard about this, but one of the other changes that is being made is in the new GT pack that's coming out. Not only are they adjusting some of the missions and the secondaries, but every single faction secondary is getting put in the pack, and they're all getting balanced.
Yeah, dude. Get the good bits. Gonna be good. I promise.
I'll be getting those good bits. I'm ready.
If that means that Purifying Ritual gets toned down, or any of the other bullshit ones, I am all for it.
How crazy is it, by the way, that like of all the new ridiculously powerful books, none of them have really powerful secondaries?
Yeah.
You guys notice that?
Deadly Performance.
Okay, Deadly is pretty good.
That one's like an easy 12.
For sure, but an easy 12 is not the auto 15 that Purifying or
Or Herd the Prey.
Or Herd the Prey was an auto 16.
Or Herd the Prey, or what's the Dark Angel one? Stubborn Defiance? Yeah.
True.
None of this nonsense. So that's a great change. So that's points. And then he asks, Naj, is your mustache the best facial hair on the entire network?
I don't know. I'm pretty fond of it.
It's a good mustache.
Yeah, I like to shave to a mustache before every tournament, so that's why I've had it quite a bit recently.
Yeah,
so.
It's a good look. I would fight you on that back when I had the Santa beard, but like at this point in my life, I'm happy to let you have that. That seems like a good idea. There also just like isn't that much facial hair on the network because we have all these like man babies like Innocent Anthony who absolutely cannot grow facial hair no matter how hard they try. If you think Anthony Vanell listens to my show, you're high as hell, so he's not going to find out I said that.
Yeah.
Colin can't grow facial hair for shit. Mitch gets a great mustache. When Mitch has a mustache, that's also very solid. But yeah, I think Naj is definitely high in the runnings. All right. Tim the Sorcerer asks, how do you take non-clan orc named characters in your single clan list again? Can a Death Skulls clan take Gaz? Yes, they can. Do you want me? Can I explain this, Lucas, or is it the fact that it's
I don't know how it works.
Okay, so here's how it works. The new change, and you know what? I have the Knockman pack right here. I'm literally going to read it out of the pack, just to be super specific, and so there's zero confusion. Alrighty. All of the units in a player's army that have selectable faction keywords, that is, faction keywords represented in angular brackets, that a player selects when they add those units to their army, must all have the same selectable keywords. This means, for example, that all units with the chapter keyword in a player's army must be chosen from the same chapter, and so all these units must replace chapter with the name of that chapter. All units with the Cabal keyword in a player's army must be from the same Cabal. All units with the Witch Cult's keyword from a player's army must be from the same Witch Cult, and so on. The only exception is as follows. Mark of Chaos and Allegiance keywords can differ, and Dreadblade and Freeblade keywords can have selectable faction keywords. That's a thing. And then they also went in and said that specialist mobs are exempt. Here is why Ghazghkull is unaffected. It's exactly the same reason that the Silent King is unaffected, which is that he does not have a selectable keyword. Exactly. He is keyword Goths. So you don't need to worry about that. However, this still means that you can only take him in a Supreme Command if he is not in a Goth's army. Unless Gaz has a specific rule against that. Does Gaz have a rule that say he can be in any detachment?
Yes.
Okay, so Gaz gets around that. But for example, Guilliman. No, Guilliman's a Lord of War, so it's not even like Marneus Calgar. You can play mono Iron Hands with Marneus Calgar. No, he's not a Supreme Commander. You can, though. You have to put them in their own detachment, which means if it's not a Supreme Command, it has to be a Super Heavy Aux or an Aux support. So you can absolutely take you could take, if you wanted to, you could take a Death Skulls battalion with Ghazghkull in the battalion, I guess, because he can do that. But you could also or you could put him in a different detachment. But you could also take, as we saw at Dallas, you could take Mozrog in an auxiliary support detachment. Because he does not select a keyword, so he doesn't need to select snake bites. He just has it. He can be in his own detachment. He will not get the benefit of being snake bites, because it's an Aux support detachment. Gaz does get the benefits of being Goths if he's in a Goth Supreme Command, does he not? No?
Oh, if he's in a Supreme Command.
In Supreme Command, yeah, exactly.
If he's in a Death Skulls battalion, he doesn't get it, but he doesn't prevent the Death Skulls from losing it.
Exactly. So you could, if you wanted to, take a Death Skulls battalion, that would get the Death Skulls benefits, take Gaz in a Supreme Command, and Gaz would get the Goth. No, Gaz would not. Yeah, Gaz would get the Goth benefits in a Supreme Command, and you could take Mozrog in an auxiliary support detachment, and he would not get the snake bites benefits.
But doesn't the king not get Zerakin when he's in a...
Yeah, so here's how that works.
Doesn't the king never get Zerakin?
The king has a keyword Dynastic Agent, and in the book, Dynastic Agents can be included in your army without breaking your mono-faction rules, but they never get dynasty bonuses.
So a Necron rule says you never get a dynasty bonus.
So all the other Dynastic Agents don't have a dynasty tied to them, but he just has Zarakan Dynasty tied to him, so that you can use the Zarakan strat with him, because he's still in a Zarakan detachment with the Zarakan keyword, and he gets to use the Zarakan strat, which is the 18-inch 4-up to die. But because Dynastic Agents is also on his data sheet, it overrides the Zarakan chapter tactic, so he never gets it.
Yep. Very cool.
It'd be awesome if he had 5 Field of Pain versus Mortals. I'd love that.
Absolutely. So that's the situation with taking weird stuff. You can do really weird stuff if you really want to, especially in Space Marines. Like, something that I thought was really interesting is that you can take a mono Iron Hands army, and then you can take a Vanguard with like Marneus Calgar and 3 squads of Tyrannic War Veterans, or Vicatrix Honor Guard, because they're all Ultramarine locked. And you can do that legally, and you're still mono Iron Hands.
You lose the Iron Hands Super Doctrine, though, right?
Yes, you would lose the Super Doctrine, but you would be legally takeable in this mission pack. That's all you're getting around.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but you would keep like doctrines and stuff. But yeah, you would. So that's a thing you can do. Fun facts. All right.
Goofy.
Sam says he votes for stupid sexy Naj for best facial hair. All right. So that's how that all works. And I believe that is the end of our questions. I'll probably do another thing on how this like weird auxiliary support stuff works, assuming it doesn't change in the new mission pack, on a new show on the Daily Bit. Look forward to all the Daily Bit stuff coming out soon. If you have enjoyed listening to our show, definitely check out our Patreon and our YouTube memberships. Those are both pretty great options. We should also definitely mega plug the Best in Tabletop Open. All 3 of us will be in attendance, as far as I know. Yep, we'll all be there. It's going to be awesome. So are Colin, Mitch, and Chuck. So is, I believe, Vanilla's going to be there. Basically, if they're in North America and they're on a Best in Tabletop show, they're going to be at the tournament. As well as hopefully some more big names from Charity Hammer are going to be coming out for the week as well. It's going to be awesome. It's at Bird's Place up in Hoquiam, which we rave about all the time. One of the best tournament venues. Who's in the West? What do you got, Nick?
What is Bird's Place called?
Lion Guard
Gaming.
Yeah.
Lion Guard Gaming.
Have you seen all the pictures, Tyler? They're juicing it up even further.
Oh, yeah, they totally renovated the place, haven't they?
Yeah,
it was
it's
already the
crazy.
best venue on the West Coast.
Yep.
And I can say this as I've been to a lot of venues on the West Coast, and it is, it's going to be awesome. So that is June, 13th?
Something like
That is June 11th and 12th, or is it 18th and 19th? Let me check my actual
18th and
calendar.
19th.
I think it's 18th and 19th. It is June 18th and 19th. Be there, be square. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a great event. We're going to have a ton of fun. There's going to be a listener party. You're not going to want to miss out on that one. It's going to be your first opportunity to get your hands on the new Best in Tabletop merch that's going to be going on. That's going to be sold in person there and then eventually online. But if you want some of that, you got to come and get it. So yeah, those are the things that we got to plug. Check out the rest of the network. Thank you so much for joining us. Support us if you can. And with that all being said, I've been Tyler.
I've been Nick.
And I remain Lucas.
And we will see you next time. Should be on the 21st of May, if I'm not mistaken, to debrief the GW Open and talk about whatever other shenanigans we've gotten up to. Thanks for listening, y'all. Good night.
Peace.
Bye.